Hey, this is John from Alloy211. Today's video is on the Ross 1905 Mark II Canadian Service Rifle. Before I start talking about this rifle too much, we'll go over a very brief and summarized history of the Ross rifle. During the Second Boer War, the United Kingdom refused to license the Lee Enfield for production in Canada, so Sir Charles Ross offered to finance a factory in Canada to produce his Ross Mark I rifle. The first contract was awarded in 1903 for 12,000 rifles, the first 1,000 going to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for testing. In total, they found 113 different defects warranting rejection, and in 1906 they actually reverted back to their Winchester 1894s and Lee Metford rifles. The Ross was then modified to correct these defects, and in 1905 came out with the Mark II, which is the model of rifle we have in front of us. Now the Mark II went through many variations, and they would add a star and then a star number. So you have 2 stars, star 3, star 4, star 5. They actually went through quite a few different modifications of the rifle before in 1910 it was totally redesigned to the Mark III. And I'm not going to go into too much comparison because maybe as you could tell, this rifle has been highly sporterized. Well, maybe not highly, but it's been sporterized. You know, from this fine carving here. I mean, I would call it crude carving. Other people today would probably call it primitive. It makes it sound a little more, you know, posh, a little more elegant to call it primitive rather than crude. So we'll call it primitive. Also, originally this rifle had a kind of a little pistol grip here that they have nicely cut off, chopped off. After I lower the camera down, I'll kind of give you a better look at that. It's a good job. They did a good job in modifying this. There's a lot of sarcasm there. They did not do a good job. But as I said, it's not really good to do a lot of comparison between a rifle like this and the actual, say, unmodified military version of the rifle, because one, there's some things that don't make sense. This is definitely a military stock. And again, when I bring the camera down, I'll show you this a little closer, for a couple different reasons, and a military receiver. But when I was trying to figure out where this barrel was from, I didn't see anything with a sight like this, which is a buckhorn and a U-notch. And the barrel's only 23.5 inches long, and I didn't see where that was a military issued rifle at any point. So, I mean, it may have been rebarreled. There are a lot of different options there. Anyway, back to the Mark III. The Mark III is the one that everybody really knows about of the Ross rifles. That's the one that Canada took to Europe in World War I and then pretty much promptly dumped for a variety of reasons. And so that's the one most people have heard of. This one is slightly before that, and it is, I would call it significantly different. It is significantly different. It's a different design. And I'll show you a couple places where you can see the difference even on this rifle. So anyway, back to the rifle now in front of us. It's a straight pull rifle, as you'd expect. It just goes straight back. It has a screw mechanism inside the bolt. It rotates the locking lugs into the recesses of the receiver as you push it forward. It's got, actually, you know what? I can go ahead and lower the camera down now. Dun, dun, dun. Give you guys a better view. Probably go lower than that even. Happy little trees. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now it has a safety, the back of the bolt here. It's just this little cross. You can see there it pops out that side. When the bolt is in battery and you push this over, it locks the bolt in place and doesn't allow it to fire. Take it off, you just push it back over, pops it back out. After I take the bolt out, I'll show you where that little recess is in there. Okay, now looking at the bolt, the most obvious difference between this and a Mark III is a Mark III has multiple, like a threaded locking lugs, opposed to just having 2 locking lugs. And there are other changes to the bolt as well, but that's the most obvious. As you'll notice that on the Mark III there'll be a series of lugs, and on the Mk.II it is just 2. As I was saying, this notch right here, that's where the safety engages. There should be a little magazine cutoff lever right here inside the trigger guard, but that has been removed. There should be a metal tab right here for what's called dump loading. This uses dump loading. A lot of times when you think about dump loading, you think about the 3040 Craig. And I'll show you how that works in a minute when I pull the action out of the stock. But until I looked at this rifle, I didn't really realize that was used on another service rifle. So the Mk.II did use that. Oh, and on this side of the receiver, you can see it says Ross Rifle Company, Quebec, Canada, 1905, patent, and there's no serial number present on it, so that indicates it's a military receiver, because on the stock you have the factory, the serial number over here, the year, which I believe says 1908. It's kind of hard to read. I don't know if this was sanded at one time or if this is just the way that it looked originally from age. I mean, I wouldn't put it past somebody to have sanded the stock. I mean, obviously they wanted to keep patina. But the one thing I did notice, a lot of the pictures I saw online of Ross rifles had a lot of strikes, a lot of different unit changes, because also the unit markings are on the rifle. And this one doesn't really seem to have a lot of that, so I did find that interesting. There's the butt stock. There should be a little trap door there, but that is also missing. Okay, so let's go ahead and pop this out of the stock. I would normally never use a screwdriver this small on a screw like this, but if you had noticed, I already had the screws loose. Maybe you didn't notice. I mean, why would you be paying attention to that? Or you might be saying to yourself, I always thought you had a screw loose. Which you have a screw here in the side of the stock, you have another screw here. And this screw up here we're going to leave in, because this is actually for the dump loader, for the spring for the magazine floor plate. See, I may not have left this. No, I did. I did leave this one loose too. Or I could just use a different screwdriver, which I also have over here. I just don't have the one that I would really prefer to use. Because of course, I started the video and realized I didn't leave it down here. That's okay. This one will work. It's just going to take me a bit. Maybe I should do a time lapse on this. There we go. Okay. See if that's loose now. Well, it is loose now. Okay. That's good. That is out. And then you have 2 screws on the bottom of the trigger guard here. And then I drop the rifle on its side. I hope I didn't ding up that stock. That would be a tragedy. Oh, now that I have the rifle, the camera a little lower down, let's go ahead and look at this fine, where they've turned this into a straight stock instead of a semi-pistol grip. That's kind of awful looking. Awful looking. Oh, and you didn't really get to see the carvings on this side. Let's show you that too. It's pretty fancy stuff there. But you know, someone was trying their hand. I was thinking, I really hope that they intended to checker this, because that would look okay. I mean, as far as those things go. Anyway, there's your receiver, barrel assembly. Oh, now I have this out. Gives me a little more room. Now, I didn't see anywhere, even when I was looking, because they also produce these for the civilian market. It does have military style front sight, but they did produce these on the civilian market too, because these were a very accurate rifle and people really did like the design. And it is not a bad design necessarily, but definitely probably not a service rifle. But I didn't see any sights like this. Oh, there's one of the reasons why I would say it's not a service rifle as well. Because this piece right here, which is your bolt release, the spring actually resides down in this hole in the stock. And that just seems like a bad idea for any service rifle to have springed parts working off the wood in the stock. I mean, it just doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I mean, I didn't design it, but that just, for a sporting rifle, that would probably be fine if you had some sort of this worked that way. But in a service rifle, these should all be like units. When you take this out, there shouldn't be little bits that fall out, because that falls out and lands in a puddle. It's going to be a pain in the butt to find. Anyway, you know what? If this falls out and lands on the floor by the table, it could be a pain in the butt to find. Anyway, here is the magazine floor plate. And it is, and this is why I didn't take the screw out in the front, it actually pivots on that screw right there. Got this long arm. Spring is down here in the stock. The magazine cutoff would have gone like here, and it's got like, it's kind of hard to describe, it's got like two arms like this, and you'd engage it here, and that would, you know, keep the magazine floor plate down. But the reason why it's got this arm and the spring out here is because, and I'm not going to pull this out, and we can look at this fine craftsmanship on here. Maybe you can see, looks like hacksaw teeth marks on that. That is where the dump loading piece of metal would have been, that would have gone onto the outside of the stock. But someone, I guess, decided that it wasn't aesthetically pleasing, so they decided to just hack that thing off. So fine metalworking there, much like the woodworking. It shows that they were disciplined in a couple different fields. Maybe that's harsh for me to say. The one thing is too, with sporterized Ross rifles, the barrel is relatively easy to change. And so, I mean, it could be a different barrel. But really, when you start to look at the rifle, this design at least, I've not taken a Mk.III apart. I don't know for sure if they simplified that design much or not, but I would say really this is too complex of a design for a service rifle. But as a sporting rifle, it really wouldn't be that bad. And like I said, I'm not sure where the sight came in. I took the sight off. It seems to be original to the gun, or at least to the barrel. I shouldn't say to the gun, to the barrel. But like I said, they also made them on the civilian market, so I don't know. It also could have been modified. So that's the one problem with the sporterized rifles. Sometimes you just don't really know what's been done to it, or when it's been done to it, or why it's been done to it. But overall, I think it's an interesting design. I think really looking at that and comparing it, say, to some of the other bolt action rifles I have from the time period, that although it's cool and straight pull is a neat idea, it really isn't as simple of a design or as effective as a design when compared to other bolt action rifles of the period. Because in practice, are they really faster? Maybe, maybe not. But in building them, the simplicity of the regular bolt action rifle really wins out if you're a country wanting to adopt a service rifle. So anyway, as I said, you know, the Ross rifle is famous for being ditched by the Canadians in World War I, but it actually has a little bit of history before that and went through a lot of modifications before it even got to that point, at which point they said, this thing's really not worth it. So production ended in 1918 for the Ross rifles, so past that point, I think everybody realized, there are better rifles, cheaper rifles available. Anyway, I really appreciate being able to have the chance to show you guys this fine firearm, which, you know, this could still be a functional firearm and it could still work. I would definitely take it to a gunsmith and have it looked over to make sure everything was good on it before I would ever fire it, and to make sure it is chambered in 303. But other than that, this still could be a serviceable firearm. An ugly serviceable firearm, but hey, as long as it still shoots, right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button. If you watched some of my other videos and you enjoyed those too, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. Thanks. Have a good day.